The invitation was printed on cream-colored paper with gold embossing. The Recording Academy cordially invites you to the 1979 Music Industry Humanitarian Awards Gala. Black tie required. Bob Marley held the elegant card in his hands, reading it for the third time. He was being honored for his charitable work in Jamaica, but as he stood outside the Beverly Hills Hotel on the evening of September 21st, 1979, he was about to discover that some people judged humanitarians by their hair, not their hearts. If you love discovering the untold stories behind music history's most incredible moments, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell because we uncover the hidden gems that shaped the legends we know today. Beverly Hills Hotel, Crystal Ballroom, 7:30 p.m. The most powerful people in the music industry were arriving for the annual gala. Limousines pulled up to the red carpet entrance, depositing executives, artists, and celebrities in their finest formal wear. Photographers' flashes lit up the evening as Hollywood's elite posed for pictures. Bob Marley approached the entrance wearing what he considered his finest clothes: a well-tailored black suit, a crisp white shirt, and a thin black tie. His dreadlocks were neatly pulled back and secured with a simple band. He carried himself with the quiet dignity that had made him a global icon, but he looked different from the other guests streaming into the hotel. At the entrance stood Gerald Morrison, the hotel's head of guest relations and event security. Morrison was a 45-year-old man who took enormous pride in maintaining the Beverly Hills Hotel's reputation as an exclusive venue for the right kind of people. He had worked at the hotel for 12 years, and he believed his job was to ensure that only appropriately dressed, appropriately behaved, appropriately cultured guests entered their prestigious events. Morrison watched Bob approach with growing concern. The dreadlocks, the relaxed walk, the simple jewelry, none of it fit Morrison's image of what a guest at a Recording Academy gala should look like. As Bob reached the entrance, Morrison stepped directly into his path. "Excuse me, sir, this is a private event." Bob smiled politely and reached into his jacket pocket. "Yes, I have my invitation right here." Bob presented the gold-embossed invitation, but Morrison barely glanced at it. "Sir, I'm afraid you're not appropriately dressed for this event." Bob looked down at his suit, confused. "I'm wearing a black tie, as requested. The dress code requires formal attire. This," Morrison gestured vaguely at Bob's appearance, "isn't appropriate for our venue." "What specifically isn't appropriate?" Morrison's voice took on a condescending tone. "Sir, this is a black tie gala for music industry professionals. We require proper grooming standards and conventional formal wear." Bob understood immediately what Morrison was really saying. "Are you referring to my hair? Your hairstyle isn't suitable for our clientele, and frankly, your overall appearance suggests you might be more comfortable at a different type of venue." Behind Bob, other guests were beginning to notice the confrontation. Several people had phones out, sensing that something newsworthy was happening. "Sir," Bob said calmly, "I'm here because I'm being honored tonight for my humanitarian work. My name is Bob Marley." Morrison's expression didn't change. "I don't care what your name is. You don't meet our standards." A woman behind Bob gasped, "That's Bob Marley. He's one of the honorees." But Morrison remained unmoved. "Our grooming policy clearly states that hair must be conventionally styled and maintained. Your locks violate our standards." Bob nodded thoughtfully. "Mr. Morrison, may I ask what you think appropriate grooming means?" "Clean, professional, respectable. The kind of appearance that reflects the caliber of our establishment." and you think my appearance is unclean." Morrison realized he was walking into dangerous territory, but his prejudices pushed him forward. "I think your appearance suggests a lifestyle that doesn't align with our venue's standards." "What lifestyle would that be?" "The type associated with your music. Drug use, nonconformity, anti-establishment attitudes." The crowd behind Bob was growing larger and more agitated. Several guests were now recording with their cameras. "Mr. Morrison," Bob said, his voice remaining calm but gaining strength, "let me tell you about my lifestyle. I wake up every morning at 5 a.m. to meditate and pray. I eat only natural foods. I've never used hard drugs. I don't drink alcohol. I spend my time writing music about love, unity, and helping others." Morrison looked uncomfortable but didn't back down. "Regardless, your appearance doesn't meet our dress code." "My appearance," Bob continued, "includes dreadlocks, which are part of my religious practice. They represent my commitment to natural living and spiritual growth. They're as important to me as a cross is to a Christian, or a kippah is to someone who's Jewish." The crowd murmured in agreement. This wasn't just about dress code anymore. This was about religious freedom. "Sir, I don't care about your religious beliefs. We have standards to maintain." Bob looked at Morrison with genuine sadness rather than anger. "Mr. Morrison, tonight I'm being honored for building schools in Jamaica, for feeding hungry children, for bringing medical care to remote villages. But you're telling me I can't enter this building because of how my hair grows naturally from my head. It's not about charity work. It's about character, isn't it?" Bob interrupted gently. "You're judging my character based on my appearance. But character isn't shown by how you style your hair. Character is shown by how you treat people who are different from you." Morrison's face was reddening. He was trapped in front of a growing crowd, defending an obviously discriminatory policy. "Look around you," Bob said, gesturing to the other guests. "You see suits and ties and think respectable. But how many of these well-dressed people have fed hungry children this week? How many have visited sick people in hospitals? How many have used their success to help others?" The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on every word. "You see my dreadlocks and think dangerous or unprofessional. But these same hands have held dying children, have built homes for the homeless, have written songs that bring people together across all the divisions that separate us." Bob's voice grew stronger. "Mr. Morrison, if this hotel's standards are more about appearance than substance, more about conformity than character, then maybe the question isn't whether I'm good enough for your venue. Maybe the question is whether your venue is good enough for the work we're celebrating tonight." Just then, a voice cut through the crowd. "Mr. Morrison, what exactly is going on here?" Everyone turned to see David Chen, the Recording Academy's president, approaching with a look of growing alarm. "Mr. Chen," Morrison said, trying to regain his composure, "I was explaining to this individual that he doesn't meet our dress code requirements." Chen looked at Bob, then back at Morrison. "Mr. Morrison, that individual is Bob Marley, one of tonight's 3 honorees. Are you seriously refusing entry to one of our guests of honor?" Morrison's face went pale. I was enforcing the hotel's grooming standards. By discriminating against a man's religious practices and racial identity." Chen's voice was ice cold. "Mr. Morrison, you've just committed a civil rights violation in front of 50 witnesses with cameras." Chen turned to Bob. "Mr. Marley, I am profoundly sorry. This is inexcusable." Bob smiled gently. "Mr. Chen, it's not your fault. But perhaps this moment can teach us all something about the difference between being well-dressed and being well-intentioned. Chen nodded, then turned back to Morrison. Mr. Morrison, you're fired. Security will escort you from the premises immediately, and this hotel will be issuing a public apology for this incident. As security approached Morrison, Bob did something that shocked everyone present. Wait, Bob said. Mr. Morrison, before you go, I want to ask you something. Morrison looked at him with a mixture of shame and defiance. If your own child came to you with dreadlocks, with different clothes, with ideas you didn't understand, would you turn them away? Would you judge them by their appearance or love them for who they are? Morrison's composure finally cracked. The question hit him harder than any rebuke or consequence. I have a son, Morrison said quietly. He's 16. He's been growing his hair long, listening to rock music. My wife says I'm too hard on him about his appearance. Bob nodded with understanding. Mr. Morrison, maybe tonight we both learned something. You learned that character comes in many different packages. And I learned that even people who make hurtful judgments can change when they remember what really matters. Bob reached out his hand to Morrison. I forgive you, and I hope you'll forgive yourself and do better with your son. Morrison stared at Bob's extended hand, tears forming in his eyes. He shook it. Mr. Marley, I'm sorry. I was wrong, completely wrong. We all make mistakes, Bob replied. What matters is what we do after we realize we've been wrong. David Chen watched this exchange in amazement. Even after being humiliated and discriminated against, Bob Marley was offering grace and wisdom to the man who had wronged him. The crowd erupted in applause. What had started as an ugly incident of discrimination had been transformed into a lesson about forgiveness and human dignity. As Bob finally entered the gala, he was greeted with a standing ovation from the 500 guests who had heard about the confrontation at the entrance. But Bob used his acceptance speech that night to talk not about his own mistreatment, but about the importance of looking beyond surface appearances to find the humanity in everyone. Tonight, a man judged me by my hair instead of my heart, Bob told the gathering. But I want to thank him because he reminded all of us how easy it is to make assumptions about people based on how they look rather than who they are. The same dreadlocks that made him think I was unworthy are the same hair that represents my faith, my culture, my commitment to natural living. They're part of who I am, just like your hairstyle is part of who you are. But more importantly, tonight showed me that when we respond to prejudice with love, when we meet ignorance with education, when we choose forgiveness over anger, we create the possibility for real change. Gerald Morrison watched the speech from the hotel lobby where he was clearing out his office. David Chen had actually offered to let him keep his job if he attended diversity training. But Morrison had decided to resign anyway. I need to figure out who I really am, Morrison told his wife that night. And I need to apologize to our son for judging his appearance instead of celebrating his spirit. Morrison's relationship with his son improved dramatically over the following months. He started listening to Bob's music and eventually became a volunteer at homeless shelters, inspired by Bob's message about helping those society overlooks. 2 years later, Morrison wrote Bob a letter. Mr. Marley, you'll probably never remember me, but you changed my life. You taught me that respect has nothing to do with appearance and everything to do with character. My son and I are closer than we've ever been, and I've dedicated my life to helping people I used to judge. Thank you for showing me grace when I deserved condemnation. Bob never replied to the letter, but he kept it in his desk drawer. Rita Marley found it after Bob's death and had it framed, placing it in their home as a reminder of Bob's belief that every person deserves the chance to grow and change. The Beverly Hills Hotel implemented comprehensive diversity and inclusion training for all staff following the incident. Their new policy explicitly stated that grooming standards could not discriminate against religious practices or cultural expressions. The Recording Academy used the incident as a catalyst for broader conversations about inclusion in the music industry, leading to new guidelines about accessibility and discrimination at industry events. But perhaps the most lasting impact was on the hundreds of people who witnessed Bob's response that night. Many later said it changed how they thought about conflict, forgiveness, and the power of responding to hate with love. Today, the Beverly Hills Hotel lobby has a small plaque that reads, "All guests are welcome regardless of appearance, background, or beliefs. Excellence is measured by character, not conformity." And every year on September 21st, the hotel hosts a free community dinner for homeless individuals and families, serving the kind of people who once might not have been considered appropriate for their venue. The program is called the Bob Marley Open Door Initiative, ensuring that the man once denied entry is now forever welcome, along with everyone else seeking dignity and respect.